We are back, day one of fall practice in the books. We have a great guest coming on to talk about all things Badgers. How'd the quarterback look? How did the new front seven look? How did some of the new freshmen look? We have a lot to get into today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you for being here. Today's episode, we got our good friend of the show, Jake Kokorowski, jumping on. We're going to talk day one practice in Platteville, thoughts on Billy Edwards, the new front seven, some listener questions. I want to start here, Jake. Obviously, day one, we'll probably hit that point home a couple times. Let's not overreact. But if you were to overreact to something, what would it be?
I really like the run game. But I think that's the first thing that pops out. I liked, again, these folks, they were in spider pads, for today during practice, which are not shoulder pads. They look like shoulder pads. They are not shoulder pads. And so, this is like the beginning. So it's going to work their way up to full pads at some point. But let me just say, it was warm and muggy out there. But there are just some good runs I saw from, this is early on, but, in practice during the team periods. But there's a series where you saw 11-on-11 series where you saw Dilon Jones get a nice run off a zone play. And then also Darrion Dupree had something off the edge. So there's stuff like that I really like this scheme for what it can be for Wisconsin. And obviously it's a little different from the last couple of years. But I think the run game is going to have to be huge with Dilon Jones, Darrion Dupree, Cade Yacamelli, each bringing a little bit of a complementary football to each other. And, I liked that in terms of overreaction. So I think, I'm high on that because, it's also, I think it's one thing too, where this defense is also getting a taste of this type of offense where it's multiple looks. I think that can only help the defense too, but you're seeing what this offense can bring in terms of a run game. And again, not padded. I want to, there's still some physicality to practice. Don't get me wrong. That's Luke Fickell's calling card, but I would say overreaction there. Yeah. I would say I like the run game.
Can all three of those backs have a consistent role every game? Is that something that is the goal and it's going to be difficult to pull off, or is that just not going to happen, do you think?
I was talking to Jeff Grimes about it. He's talking to reporters yesterday Monday on local media day. And it was one of those things that, you remember him talking about, there's the more players you have a position, the harder it is for coaches. And one of the ways is just, you have to have a plan for them. You have to, make sure you're organized and efficient in terms of the reps and the personnel groupings. And if they're going in and out, stuff like that, there's a deeper part of that, but also getting the reps that they, as he put it, need and deserve. And so there's a two-pronged thing there, but it's also like, so there's challenges with trying to get back. We're talking about Gideon Atuka for that matter, who I thought had some good practices in the spring too, as well. And he's kind of a, down one cut downhill runner. And so he's kind of forgotten in this mix, but I would say, I think there are ways to do it. And I think each player, I really like Darrion Dupree's all-around game. He's an all-purpose type of back. You saw in spurts last year what he can do catching out of the backfield. I still think that's his strength. Still think he's the best pass catcher in that group. And I'm wondering to see what will happen with him there. I also think he can get to the outside. Remember at Chicago Mount Carmel, that man, was in the slot. He was in the backfield. I'm wondering to see if they're going to use him all over the field in just how that develops further. Dilon Jones, I think, is really well made for this type of offense, and I think he's a physical back. I feel like he likes punishment, and so I think so that's a good there. And Cade Yacamelli is just this workhorse who's jacked and he's huge, but he's got the speed to him too, right? He was one of the fastest Badgers, if I'm not mistaken, according to strength and conditioning director Brady Collins. He ran like a 4.40. So you have three good backs now. I mean, it could always be they get the hot hand and they roll from there. I mean, we've seen Wisconsin backfields in the past try to utilize three. I mean, gosh, it was going back to 2010. There's John Clay and James White, and then Monte Ball decided, like when he stepped up towards the middle of the year, and then basically didn't relinquish it for most of it. James White was that freshman that could do, was a different type of back, and John Clay was a different type of back from both of them too. And so I think it's possible. I think ideal. I think. We'll see just what that happens. I think having two durable backs is good, but injuries are going to pop up. And you take a look at even what happened in 2023, right? Where you have, Braylon Allen, with what he was going through, and then, they lose Ches Malusi. And so, imagine Isaac Garendo being back there, but hey, good for him going out to Louisville. And now he's, doing well with the 49ers. So I think they need three backs, but trying to get them in, I think it's going to be very interesting to see just how they match up and just which backs they think can work against which opponents.
I think you hit on something pretty important there. Is they have differing skill sets to some degree. Dilon, Darrion, and Cade all are slightly different, and then you can utilize those in different areas. Let me ask you this, because I've made a point. The offensive line is incredibly important this year. The left tackle spot, the front seven. How are they going to replace potentially Nizier if they have to? I know that's still up in the air, but honestly, none of it really matters unless the quarterback play gets decently better than it was last year. What did Billy Edwards look like? We did have a question from Marine Matt from the Discord as well. Was this the best quarterback performance you've seen in the last 3 years in early practices? What did Billy look like?
Shout out to Marine Matt, by the way. I appreciate him. I always love talking to him on your Discord. Yeah, I thought he looked, I'm looking back. I think he looked fine. Like, it wasn't anything that really stood out in terms of errors on my, let's see, the only interceptions that were thrown, they're during Skelly period. I'm just looking, don't mind me. This is terrible podcasting. I apologize, but just looking at my notes, the only interceptions that were thrown was, Carter Smith, where Mason Posa made that great interception, there, and then the series before Matthew Traynor, he intercepted Danny O'Neal during that. But I would say I do like how Billy Edwards has kind of assumed. He is the starter, but you tell that there's a leadership role to him. And I mentioned this in my observations on Badger Observer today, just as a kind of a taking you like inside there. Like there's a DeKel Crowdus, he didn't catch a pass, and then he's on the field, and then kind of in the middle of the field. Next thing you know, Billy Edwards is like, "Hey, DeKel, like try it again," and lifts him up. He gets the reception, and then even Lance Mason, who had a drop, Billy Edwards goes over and gives him a clap or whatever, dap up, and gives him look like encouragement, try to lift him up. So leadership wise, I really like what Billy Edwards has done in terms of physical. What you're actually asking for in terms of play. He had a nice deep throw to Vinny Anthony down the right sideline. I don't know for how long. Again, they can never really tell just how long the play would go for, but it was a nice throw there. Let me see if there's anything else. I think it was just he had a couple of good throws that I would say Ricardo Holman almost had. And so that's kind of shows you the good ball placement. There was one to Jaden Ballard it was a team drill 11-on-11 where he has threw the ball, I think, perfectly. That was one of them. And then there's another one, the one that does just over that. And that was during Skelly period, was to Vinny Anthony, where he threw a nice pass to the left sideline. And Vinny Anthony came down with it, but like Hallman was right there. So you saw some good passes there. I think you saw a little bit of accuracy today from Edwards. And you also saw, in my eyes, there's some scrambling in the pocket during one time. There's one play that kind of broke down. He saw the pressure, and I was about ready to call out sack because when we're up in the press box, we're kind of looking at these guys. And looking like, all right, well, they're going to let the play continue to go on just to complete a pass, and just to see how it goes. Well, you also like this one wasn't that way, where you saw the pressure. I think it was JVR Suggs that came on that was there, but he scrambled out of it. And so I didn't call it a sack, and he made a completion. So there's things like that with Billy that I think, and I know, I feel like he's underrated right now. I'm sure they'd rather have that as an underrated part, be an underdog in that sense, in terms of overachieving. But he looks well built at 6'3", 228. He's healthy. He's able to make, and then, I think he's got the intangibles where he's an athlete. He's not afraid of contact when he has to run. We saw that at Maryland, but he also has a good arm. He's got the arm talent to I think do very well in this offense. Again, it's a very tough schedule. And again, it's only the first practice, but I thought I saw some good things out of Billy Edwards Jr. today.
That's great feedback, because in my experience, you're one of the more honest people who look at these things, just in the sense of, you're not really a fan. You are a reporter. You really do look at these things with kind of a pretty keen eye. So it seems like a good start for Billy. And a lot of what you talked about are things we've heard: leadership, the intangibles, picking teammates up, clapping for people. And I think you need that as a quarterback, unless you're just insanely talented. You have to have a leadership backbone in you as a quarterback, as a leader of this team. I think it's one of the bigger things he's going to bring to this program. We need to take a quick second there. We're going to come back and talk about the front seven. I got a bunch of questions about Riger. What's the front seven look like? I know this is a big part of this team. Plus, Jake Okarowski has something different cooking up. You can see it down there on his tagline, but we're going to let him talk about what he's got going on as well over at Badger Observer. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at 5 Hour Energy. And listen, it is summer. It is time for golf. If you need to fuel up and get a little more energy over at 5 Hour Energy, use their transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor to your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol. It's an energizing shot. Whether you're singing birdies or just making memories with friends, that's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest. Sometimes, some days on the course, you're kind of going at it, and you just need that little bit of extra boost to get you jazzed up and energized. I know I've been in there in the dog days of summer golfing. Back when I was on the Navy base in Groton, Connecticut, we would golf as a group. We'd go out, build some camaraderie. Sometimes you just need a little bit extra to get you through those last couple holes. That's what 5 Hour Energy is here for. Right now, golf is all about the good times with the good people. We talked about it, good flavors. Grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse without having to chase down the beverage cart. Right now, go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order. Cannot be used without promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, you need to get the energizing boost of power through. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. All right, let's get back into this with Jake. Jake, I want to start here, man. And again, I've said this before. I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to jump on these shows with me. You've also showed me a lot of kindness in other ways. And I'm always a big fan of supporting good people doing good things. What do you have going on right now? What can you tell us about Badger Observer?
Yeah, well, first off, right back at you, man. I love your Discord. I think shout out to everybody in the Discord when you guys listen to this. I really enjoy I've been on various forums before, and y'all are very good and mostly cordial. I'd say 99.9% cordial and good discussion. And I appreciate you all. It's nice to talk to. I mean, I think it's one thing that's sometimes missing with reaching out to fans and talking and whatnot. I know we all have our own personal lives too, but it's nice to connect with fans and talk with everybody. And I think that's huge. So thank you guys. But yeah, I am starting the Badger Observer newsletter. It is a brand new thing. I appreciate everybody at Wisconsin Badgers on SI, including a shout out to Chris Perone, who's the site owner, and also Lauren Cox at who's the site lead for Wisconsin Badgers on SI. What I thought was, what I wanted to try was to do something a little bit more in depth. And I know right now, I'm you'll see on badgerobserver.com, there is a lot of practice takeaways. There's going to be a lot of content this first week, and probably for this month of August, it's going to go down to about 3 to 4 newsletters a week because I will be having another, I have working to build this up while also having another set of income and whatnot. But yeah, it's an opportunity. It's a unique opportunity for me to do what I do best, and that's to tell unique stories. And it's going to be focused on Wisconsin football, Wisconsin football's recruiting, and the volleyball program. And for me, some of the best things I said in my intro to Badger Observer that I feel like I'm Greg Maddux of the beat sometimes. Like, hey, I have a fastball. Is it my, is my best pitch? No, but I think I can paint the corners well. And that's, to get outs, basically, to get and I view that as eyes on to stories. And so for me, I'm really excited for it. We're going to tell, my goal is to go out to travel to games, not all of them, just because of budget wise and trying to build this up. But I'm going to try to get to most of the games. I'm going to try to get to see, a good chunk of the recruits. I have to clear some travel with the wife just to make sure that I have things, we have, expenses, everything locked in and approved. But yeah, it's a good venture, man. I'm excited. I appreciate all the early support so far. It takes time to build and but you're seeing, subscribers jumping on, and hey, I appreciate you. This is get on a good, when it's at the, when we're starting, because it's only going to take off from here. And, my goal, it's going to be unique. It's going to be authentic. It's going to be, my perspective, in terms of how I'm reporting on Wisconsin football and volleyball. And I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it too.
Absolutely love it, man. We're going to link how you can get in contact with Badger Observer when we release the show. That'll be up in the show notes as well, so you can check it out. But you can also just go to Jake Kokorowski's Twitter feed, find all that stuff there. And again, I'm subscribed to it. I highly recommend it because I believe in the type of work that Jake does, and I believe in the type of person that he is. So if you want that type of content, I would absolutely go subscribe to that and check out what he's doing there. Let's talk defensive line. Let's talk 7. Again, I got questions mostly about quarterback play and about the defensive line, the front 7. Big emphasis this offseason. I know it's very early. I know we're not as physical as we're going to be later in practice. How'd they look in general?
I mean, I think the defense looked good. I think it's one of those things where, again, first day of practice, and you have various, they're not in pads, and I think that's still huge. I mean, you can still see the physicality. Is it going to be the same as when they throw on the shoulder, like go half pack, which that's where you can really get a little bit more physical on things now. But you liked what you saw, in terms of, I add Charles Perkins or Sebastian Cheeks down for a sec, or maybe both, one of the two. Colton Bartholomew and I were trying to go back and forth as to see who that was. But you saw some pressure from the JVR Suggs. These guys are big. Like Charles Perkins, he was 316 listed on the spring depth chart. He's up to 323, and he's still got the twitch. We saw him on Squat Fest squat about 600 pounds there. Then, you have guys like Ben Barton, who's up at 325, and he looks, at media day I was there, he looks 325. Dilon Johnson is big. He as well is at about 312, 313 for weight. And so there are bigger body. Parker Peterson's still over 310 pounds on the fall camp roster. So these guys, they're able to clog. It is interesting just to watch. Again, it's hard to tell at times with linemen that way when there's no pads on. But these guys are bigger. You can tell they're bigger. It's interesting to see just how the defensive front in terms of the outside linebackers are. I know we're going to talk about Mason Reiger. Daryl Peterson's up at 260, and he looks 260, and he's got his hand in the ground. And so I think that, even though like someone like Corey Walker dropped 7 pounds from 297 to 290, that's still 290 pound guy on the outside linebacker, quote unquote. Essentially we're like an edge or defensive lineman. Hey man, then you have 3 guys that are around 290 or heavier on the line. And you have a Peterson that's 260 ish, and maybe a Ryder 250 ish, potentially interchangeably. We'll see. I think it's good. I think that you'll see Wisconsin be able to hold up more against the run. And I mean, that's one thing Mike Trissel talked about, right? Where it is, he thought, what do you expect to improve the most this season? He said, stop in the run. Yeah. And I think that's going to be one of the things that they absolutely have to, because you can't give up 200.2 yards per game like they did in the final 5 games on average. And they gave up 12 rushing touchdowns in those final 5 games. And that's inexcusable for Wisconsin right now when it comes to they can't have, it's inexcusable for what's going to, if this happens again this year, because they have brought in guys that, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to allow that much anymore. But, that much this year, we'll see. If injuries pop up, that's another story. But I feel they have 6 or 7 defensive linemen that can, And I think outside linebacker is one of their deepest parts too. So I think they have the numbers there. Now the Gus goes and, talk about me being a little bit more further detached compared to fans. It's now it's time for them to prove it. I think they have a chance to surprise people.
I love it. And that's one of the things I want to hit on in the next segment as we wrap up the show is a lot of new pieces on this team, man. And I think a lot of pieces are being penciled in as massive parts, but not all of them are likely to hit because not everything always works out. Curious on some of those pieces, what they look like. We have a question about Reiger, obviously, what he looks like. And then there's a couple other listener questions. We're going to get into that next on Locked On Badgers as we wrap up this show with Jake Kokorowski. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you so much for being part of this community. Let's start there, man. Let's start with Mason Reiger. You talked about him just a little bit. Did he stand out in any specific way? I know he's been cleared. What does he look like?
Yeah, he physically looks the part. Even go back to Squat Fest, looked the part. I would say with him though, he did receive first team reps. I looked back on my notes. Looked like he was working alongside Daryl Peterson, with some first team outside linebacker reps today. Again, it's early. Nothing really very much, I would say stood out just because I didn't see that I didn't mark him down for any pressures compared to others on the defense. But it's also like, this is like, he's healthy. He's working back. I'd say what I can say is like, I'll be focusing, trying to see if I can watch one-on-ones when they go on to half-pack. And that's when I'm really going to kind of start. And it's not dissuading what they're, what's going on right now, because they can get physical and they have shown they can be physical with what they try to do with just, spider pads. But I would also say, give me a couple of days just to see. And obviously I'll get back to you guys on that too. But I think the fact that he is getting, first team reps is a good sign early on. Now it's going to be him just, working his way back.
Yeah, and for those who haven't been to, I've been to a couple practices at this point last year in Platteville, a couple in spring, not nearly as much as a guy like Jake has been to. It's impossible to catch everything. I don't know if people realize that. You have action going on at times, both sides of the field. You have individual stuff. It's really hard to get everything. I think even if you're a seasoned guy, which I'm not. So it's difficult. How do you look at practice? Like, what are you specifically maybe looking for? Because I think for a long time, we've talked around this idea of, man, the running game, you mentioned the running game looked good. Well, does that mean the running defense is bad, right? Billy Edwards looked great. Well, where's Rico Holman then? How do you look at this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's you look at, for me, when I'm approaching practice, you kind of like my strategy is like, I'll go down to the field, especially being now an independent newsletter. I got to get photos because I don't have photos, so it's all right. Let's go get some photos and, take stuff there. But then it's also, go on the field, you kind of listen to stuff. And that's where I first found the Billy Edwards talking to Dekel Crowdis. Like, it's one thing where when you're doing observations, and I need to do a better job of this. Still, it's something I'm always working on. It's just trying, you can't necessarily report on what they're saying, right? You can't say quotes or anything like that, but you can just, see certain things. Maybe you can't see them in the press box. Maybe it's guys chatting it up and talking about something that maybe you didn't see that, or it's in the corner, or you're seeing, compliments or feedback given from the coaches and whatnot. So I think, for me, it's trying to capture those moments to see, like, I hate saying the vibes, but there are certain vibes that you can pick up during practices that way. But then it's like, then you're going concrete into it. Then you're going into, you're looking up, going back to your press box. For me, it's, we got our roster sheets, and it's like, okay, who's here, who's not, who's practicing, who's not. And then you're kind of like, for me, when there's team periods or skelly periods, it's marking down what's complete, or what, complete or incomplete, touchdowns or interceptions, drops or catches, stuff like that. But you're also trying to see, like, who's rotating in and out. And so I think that's an even more thing, and you're watching every, especially with certain positions, right, where, you're looking at left tackle and right guard and offensive line. Well, every first team snap, my eyes are instantly like, I don't really, Lance Mason may be a tight end, but I'm not looking at Lance Mason right now, because, even though he did get first team reps, and so did Tucker Ashcraft, and so did Jackson Aker. So you kind of know that, right? But then it's also, you have guys like, like I'm looking at Davis Heinzen at left tackle. I'm looking at, okay, who's right guard? Because we saw Kerry Kudenko a bunch in the spring. Well, he's second team left guard. Emerson Mandel is the first team right guard for today. And Luke Fickell said that it's likely going to change. Like, he foreshadowed it today, saying like, look, we're going to have different, basically saying they're going to have different combinations at offensive line. So very well could be switched up tomorrow. So you're trying to see, and even like for me, it's seeing like on defense, and this is the hardest part where, I'll mark down, I'll say a run. If I say I'll say a nice run. I don't even like, it's hard to see, especially let's say today, again, spiders. So you don't know when the guy's going to actually get tackled. They're going to just touch them and say, hey, gotcha. Stuff like that. So you don't know if it'll be like a 5-yard or 15-yard run. But if there's a nice hole, you're going to mark that off like, okay, that was nice blocking there. That's a nice hole that they set up off the wide zone, right? Or, for a catch. Okay, well, that was at least a 10 to 15-yard catch. Okay, well, maybe it could have been yard longer with the yak, but again, how much are they looking at trying to like make them bolt for the end zone compared to, okay, well, the ball's dropped and you have the next play and it's, already 85 degrees with 70% 70 degree dew point. Yeah. So, you try to weigh all that stuff in your head. And then on top of that, you also, I'm looking at rotations too, where, going back to that point, I'm looking at rotations where, okay, for first team reps, okay, who potentially are the receivers, who are the running backs that are getting the first team touch. That's one of the storylines. The other thing is, with defense is obviously cornerback with the Nizier Fork-Curine situation, who's working the opposite Ricardo Hallman. And even with safety, like, hey, is Matt Young or Matthew Traynor working in alongside Austin Brown or Preston Zachman, or, are they rotating in and stuff like that? And I think also linebackers that way too, and defensive line. So like I said, that's all you try to like, it's processing so much information. And like you said, if they split off, because what you'll see, this is kind of behind the curtain sometimes, like there may be times where, they may do skelly work, right? Which for those that don't know, it's essentially 7-on-7. You have the quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, tight ends working, and then you have, they're going against, the secondary linebackers, etc. And so that's going on one way, but then you're seeing one-on-ones with the offensive lineman versus the, defensive fronts with pass rushing stuff sometimes. So when you have that stuff going on, which is very common, I think, I'm guessing it's commonplace throughout college football, but and then you're trying to like watch both, but it's nearly impossible. So it's like, so it helps when you have like multiple teammates on your beat where you can be like, and I miss that part right now, is that you can go like, hey, I'm going to keep my eyes on this skelly drill. You keep your eye on pass rush and let me know what, jot down some notes, and so, and you go from there, but it's also very tough.
100%. And like, much like you, I'm just kind of there by myself, but like independently. And it's stressful. You see these other organizations, and great on them. They have multiple people. They can watch each side, and then they collaborate, they huddle. And I just have my notes scattered about everywhere, right? I'm like, I don't know. I almost wonder sometimes if it makes more sense, like, hey, I'm just going to laser focus in on this positional group, and I'm going to nail that. I'm going to have the best practice report on the defense line rotation. I'm not going to know what the hell Billy Edwards did, but I'm going to do this. And I don't know.
And you can do that too. I mean, there's so many ways to cover it. If you're looking, like, if it's, let's say, like, especially if you have a fan base that are asking questions, that's when you can focus in. Now, it's also tough sometimes too, where, one day may not be a truly representative of the entire set of practices, but it's also, it's so hard to try to take everything in at once too. So, you weigh everything about, it's going to be one of those things like in the coming days, like I'll be focusing in more on Davis Heinzen. And whoever's working at right guard, it's going to be, for me, homing in on, Deani Hill and Emilio Agard for that boundary corner spot with Nizier Fork-Curine still, obviously they revert he lost, that his preliminary injection was reversed or overturned. So there's a lot to watch, but even if I think that's what makes spring somewhat times better, like to do that type of breakdown, because it's easier because it's spring compared to fall camp, and you have an ability maybe to focus in a little bit more, and there's more I also think there's more teaching in the spring, so you can see some greater growth and whatnot, and you can talk about that more. But it's very, to me, it's I think it's all like, it doesn't have to be Wisconsin football. Like if I did this like anywhere else, I would love it because I think it's fun to see how, see it and then kind of break it down, and also trying to regurgitate it out to the masses is always fun.
A couple of quick kind of lightning fire questions to get you out of here because I know you've had a long day, but
anything, brother. We can keep this rolling, depending on however long you want to go on this. Let's rock and roll, baby.
Dude, I love it because I had a couple other questions I wanted to hit. I love this one from Northwoods. We actually asked this to Osen too, but now that you've seen practice, who's the holy cow that dude looks different?
We talked about this beforehand, Daryl Peterson. And I think he looked bigger during the spring too. But Daryl Peterson's been at, I think he was listed at 260 at both spring and fall camp rosters. He is really, I would say, like, he's gained the weight. He joked about it, during local media day on Monday, about instead of having like cheat meals, there's like cheat days and cheat weekends and whatnot. So I think you notice him he's gotten a lot bigger, which with what they're asking him to do to put his hand in the dirt, that's huge. And I think that's good. I think another one, if you're looking for a younger guy, and I'm going to have something out on Wednesday morning on Badger Observer. It'd be a subscribed or paid subscription article about just the fall roster changes. Nick Clayton, this is something that, I remember having lunch with Brady Collins and seeing Nick Clayton and being like, okay, he's got to add some weight, which is, fine. The kid's 6'5", and around 200 pounds, and he has the frame that you can see, okay, he could be something down the road maybe, but then all of a sudden you see he's up to 223, and now he's up to 237 on the fall camp roster, and you're like, okay. And I remember during Squat Fest, Brady Collins was talking about they wanted to get him to 240, and he thought it was possible. It's close, and I think that's a very good sign for Clayton, who showcases speed. And I think Brady Collins said he ran a 4.59 during their combine. At 6. If he's 6'5" and truly 237, that's really impressive. And so I think Clayton is one of those players that, to me, from everyone else, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else on any of the. I would have to say, I would have to say those two.
And we talked Clayton before the show a little bit. It's similar to the running back point you made, where differentiating skill sets allow for different players to come in and play. It gives you optionality. I think Clayton, when you contrast him with some of those other edge guys in that room, the Walkers, the Daryl Petersons who we talked about, even Sebastian Cheeks, and there's a couple other people. There's a couple other people in that group as well. Reiger, I think he gives you more burst than those guys, which allows him an avenue, I think, to play early.
Right. I think, it's complimentary. They're going to need a pass rush. I know Sparky from over in Milwaukee, I was on his show on Tuesday and this earlier, and so it's just one of those things talking about, he asked about the edge guys, and it's hard to state. I think Cheeks is the guy. I think I probably forgot to mention Sebastian Cheeks, which I feel bad about. It's been a long day, but it's fine. But you also have I thought Daryl Peterson possibly. I think Tyrese Fearbury has an opportunity to do something there. But there's Reiger, which, like I said, Reiger is pretty jacked. If you've seen his Instagram accounts and whatnot, he's a big guy, just under 250 now, according to the fall camp roster. But he also Clayton has that speed. We saw it work against, Leighton Nelson during the spring scrimmage, where he beat him off the right edge it was left edge of the offensive line, really. So he's got the abilities. I think, he has an ability to take off, and I think it may be hard to keep him off the field. Now, it depends upon, I said that's based off of spring, right? We're one practice in. I didn't necessarily see too much out of Clayton today, but again, there's no pads. It's the first practice, and we got 8 more in Platteville and another week in Madison to see who else, see what else happens.
Last question here, man, before we let you go. I really do appreciate the time as always. Give me one other guy that stood out to you. Maybe somebody that Badger fans aren't talking about right now, but somebody that caught your eye.
Ooh, during practice today or just in general?
Let's say during practice today.
Let's take a look. do I start the hype train? No, maybe not. Okay. Here, I'm gonna give you guys 3 just because it's hard to pick between each of them. So let's look through my notes. And okay, one guy that kind of stood out to me is Tyrell Henry. Now that I look back on this, he very bit. I would say very busy catching the ball when it comes to what they're asking him to do. And I think within a slot, I think he is a very good backup. I mean, when Tretch was out, he was getting first team reps in the slot, right? So, I think he could be a good 1-2 punch with Kahuna in the slot, and if step up when needed. I think he can run the ball pretty well. I think he can catch it well. That's what you want, and he's got the speed to do it. I thought he had a pretty good practice today when it came to the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, I know we talked about the Mason Posa interception. I thought that was really impressive. I really liked. Now these are only just a couple plays, but Cooper Catalano to me. Mike Tressel said that he had Catalano had a quote unquote nose for the ball towards the end of spring, and you saw that today in one instance where he made a pass breakup. And I think in my eyes, he very underrated signing. I think everyone saw him and he's consistent and whatnot, but the way that he could run around the field in Germantown, and that's why he didn't really pass rush a lot at Germantown, because they liked what he could do, sideline to sideline. That's a good sign. And so it's still early again, and you never know when these freshmen could hit walls. Mason Posa could very well, hit a wall too. It's all about with these guys, getting reps, and you have to be physically ready, and then also get this playbook in and learn it and play up to speed of college football, because that's the toughest thing normally for these kids that are freshmen, is catching up to that speed of the game. Jim Leonard talked about that with Hunter Wohler, where the speed of the game, started to slow down that first year, right, for Wohler, and then he became a starter the year after. So, yeah, there's a lot of good. I think I really like the inside linebackers, not just for I think they're really good right now. I think they're still, to me, it's figuring out who's going to be that 4th inside linebacker in the 2 deep. Could it be Catalano? Could it be Posa? Will it be Thomas Heiberger? Who's coming back from injury. So that's going to be, to me, that's one of my more low key interesting ones, because we all know injuries are going to pop up. So Antaron Turner looked, I think he looks the part as a 3rd inside linebacker, but who's going to be next to him, and can they get a 2 deep of rotation guys? And the last part, Mike Tressel said that the defense needs to have a 2 deep of players that they trust. And he's not, it wasn't necessarily saying the coaches. He's saying the players on the field. Do they feel comfortable with everybody on the field? When they're on the field. And I think that's really, that's going to be the key part there too.
Phenomenal stuff as always from Jake Kokorowski, man. I appreciate you jumping on. I know you've had a crazy long day. You've been at practice, you've been on the radio, you're doing this show. I know you're working Badger Observer. I'm sure you're writing. We appreciate you, man.
Oh, no, I appreciate you, man. I took the kids to the pool, man. Did the dishwasher. I was proud of that, man. Yeah. Y'all know how that goes with married life. But yeah, trying to take care of everything. But no, man, anything for you, man. Like I said, I really, truly appreciate you having me on. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you. We'll talk soon, my man.
No, I appreciate you, Jake. Go check out what he's doing at Badger Observer. Again, check out the show notes, see how you can connect with that.
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say real quick. Sorry. Yeah. For Badger Observer, I can't believe I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show. All right. You guys talked about it. Right now, the deal, $50 for a year for the first month of Badger Observer. So through August 29th, which is the day after the first game. A year subscription to Badger Observer, $50. That's just over $4 a month. So, check us out, and give us a chance. Otherwise, it's $7 a month or $69 a year too. But we try to keep it, very easy for consumers to, partake. I do believe reporters need to get paid, but it'd also be good to, obviously, yeah. But we want to make sure that the information is available and at a decent price.
No, I absolutely love it. And you're right. I spent $90 on takeout today. For the family, and we got, it was a nice establishment. But Yeah, for $50, you're going to get incredible content throughout the course of the year and support good people doing good things. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Again, I'm there with it. I encourage other people to do it as well. Again, Jake, always appreciate the time. We will definitely talk more. And for everyone tuning in, thank you so much as always for helping build this community, being part of this and being an everydayer. Really thank all you guys so much on Wisconsin. We will talk tomorrow.